It seems to be all anybody's talking about anymore, depending on whether it's that disgusting slaughter of a person on a bus or on a train system in Charlotte, or if it's the D.C. crime problem that has now been quelled because of Donald Trump's move. People are talking about safety and security and crime. I want to talk to a representative from the great state of Arizona, Eli Crane. Eli, good to see you again. How you doing? It's been a while.
I'm doing good, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
District 2 Republican, great state of Arizona. We appreciate you doing what you do for the country. Let's talk about crime. Let's talk about D.C. specifically, because D.C. was out of control. You had ATV gangs that were running the streets. We had people like Mark Wayne Mullen, who would drive his Jeep with his door off so he can get out quickly and defend himself against somebody trying to carjack him. We had the guy who calls himself Big Balls, got maimed on the side of the road, beaten up mercilessly. And now there's nothing going on in Washington, D.C. We've done the study, Eli. It works. So can we keep that guard there? Can we keep the federalization of police in D.C.? Do you guys in Congress have to say yes? Can the president extend it? What happens now?
Yeah, so we got a bunch of bills that we're going to be voting on this week as far as DC crime, but it's crazy, Joe. I'm telling you, man. I've deployed overseas 5 times, 3 times to war zones, and I can tell you, oftentimes I felt safer rolling around, Fallujah, Iraq, than I do here in DC. I live here about 3 weeks out of the month. I was in Israel about 2 years ago. I felt safer in Israel during a war than I do often in DC. It's completely out of control. And you listen to these Democrats scream as if Trump and the administration are waging war on their cities. But the fact of the matter is, he's the only one, trying to protect the citizens. The Democrats under the last administration let, 10 to 15 million illegal aliens into this country. They have these prosecutors that just let people walk without any repercussions or accountability whatsoever. And you're seeing the ramifications when Trump brings in, the law enforcement with a heavy hand and the National Guard. I think crime's down like 60% here in Washington, D.C., and it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I don't think there's been a murder for 2 weeks unless it was one overnight or something, but I haven't heard about one. What jumps out at me is what you said, Democrat cities. And I don't understand. Democrat or Republican, you don't want people to die. Democrat or Republican, you don't want people to get carjacked. So is this a service of incompetency at the mayor's office? Incompetent judges letting people back on the streets? Like in Charlotte, this guy was 14 times with a mugshot, and he was a convicted felon. He was on parole at one point, violated parole. He's just out riding a bus looking to kill somebody. Why are we here? They can't want more crime, can they?
Well, it's tough to say, Joe. I think that, most of your viewers would probably agree. It's probably a combination of incompetence and pure evil. When you see what happened with that, that young woman who got off the shift at the pizza place, I think it was up in North Carolina, got on the bus, and that young man behind her who was convicted of multiple crimes, who had repeatedly been let out of jail, just for no reason, takes out his knife and stabs her in the neck. It's just, to me, that's just plain evil, and then when you look at these policies, not only the sanctuary city policies, but even how they have these, they elect these prosecutors, that let people walk and they're soft on crime. It's just a matter of time before their city turns into a third world hellhole, where their citizens don't feel safe anymore. And that's why I said, thank God for President Trump. Joe, the American people want strong leaders and politicians that don't just talk a tough game, but when they actually get into a seat of authority, they actually are willing to execute on it.
Right.
And, thank God that he's there, and thank God that he's a man that doesn't just talk, but, he executes.
It is Representative Eli Crane, District 2 Republican, great state of Arizona. Marina Zorutska was her name. And to your point earlier, she came here to get away from war in Ukraine. She's somebody who came here legally, was working a job, as you said, had her little pizza hat and pizza shirt on. And because she's sitting there and because he could, this guy opens the knife, stands up, stabs her 3 times, fatally, leaves with her blood dripping from the knife, takes his shirt off, gets off the rail or the bus, whatever it was. So this is completely premeditated. It's not like he just accidentally killed somebody. This guy did it, and there's one piece of video, I don't know if you've seen this, but where it's picked up where he says, I got that white girl. Now, I'm wondering why somebody would be willing, who's sitting on a bench in a courtroom, because this judge let him out, why she thinks this was somehow better for society for him to be out. And again, does it go back to incompetence? But what you said is true. She might have been safer in Kiev.
She probably was, Joe. And here's the thing. Think about this, too. It wasn't more than a couple years ago that a guy named Daniel Penny, who was a former Marine, actually chose to do something about some psychopathic animal on a train who wanted to harm people, just like this guy. And he actually put this guy in a headlock, unfortunately, or a chokehold. Unfortunately, this individual ended up passing away. But what happened to Daniel Penny? He got prosecuted in one of these Democrat-run hellholes. And that's what they've become. And it's sad because many of them are great cities. They've got a bunch of great people in them, but they're run by complete morons. And, so it's like we've got to do something about it. And again, thankfully, we've got the commander in chief that we do who's finally saying enough's enough. I'm going to do everything that I can to protect the American citizens, whether they voted for me or not. And, and the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you can walk around D.C. right now feeling, and I see National Guardsmen all over the place. I've never felt more safe in this city. And Joe, I'm a Navy SEAL, man. I've been to several war zones, and this place is out of control. So is Chicago. So is New York. So are several of these other Democrat-run cities.
Yeah, well, you guys in Congress do have special purview over D.C. Can he send them to L.A.? I mean, he did to protect the ICE facilities and the ICE officers and to quell the riots that were happening. Can he send them to Chicago? Can he send them to any city USA that's seeing a spike in crime where people are unsafe?
Honestly, Joe, I don't know the legalities of that. I don't know if he can or not, but I do know that I've heard that there are other cities that might not have governors that are, very friendly with the president that are on the list. So I think there's more to come.
Yeah, he says he's going to, and if he claims that there's an emergency there, he can do it. If he declares emergency, he can do it, but then he'll be sued and everything else. Can you imagine Eli suing, like if you're J.B. Pritzker or Brandon Johnson out of Illinois and Chicago, suing the president to not stop crime? Did I miss the boat somewhere and enter bizarro world? What is that?
No, Joe, I can't imagine that, and that's because you and I are both on the side of common sense.
Yes,
and that's why I can't imagine it. But unfortunately, these folks could care less about common sense. Quite frankly, they could care less about the constituents and the people in their cities, unless you're an illegal alien. And then, Joe, they care a lot about you.
Yeah, that's true. It is Eli Crane. He's Oversight Committee, Homeland Security Committee, also Freedom Caucus. We appreciate the time and the access. Let's talk about the system that's in place now. You got prosecutors that won't prosecute. You got judges that are letting people go with a slap on the wrist. You've got no cash bail, letting people out in the entire state of Illinois. I had Anna Paulina Luna on yesterday, who, along with Randy Fine, is co-sponsoring a bill or an act that would go after incompetent judges and hold them accountable. Is Boasberg incompetent? Or is he just a radical activist judge? Is Paula Zinnes, who's got a love affair in her mind, I think, with Abrego Garcia, is she incompetent, or are these activist judges? Is there a difference? Is activism, does that equal incompetence?
Well, Joe, I mean, I've got a problem with a lot of these judges, too. And that's why I was the first member of the House to, co-sponsor a resolution to impeach one of these activist judges that are trying to stop the Trump administration. And this is my problem with the Republican Party, Joe. Way too many Republicans play to not lose, right? They don't play to win. All they care about is managing the decline of our country, and they don't show the leadership that President Trump is showing right now. They'll, instead of fixing a problem and, being a strong leader, they'll have their staff take a poll and see where, people are at on something before, acting, even if they're willing to do that. And so, like I said, thank God we have a strong leader in the White House. But yeah, I have a serious issue with many of these judges as well. And I didn't know about that bill until I heard it on your show, but it sounds like another one I'll be co-sponsoring.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad. I'm sure they'd be glad to have you along for the ride. When it comes to these activist judges, it just doesn't make any sense. They keep losing in the Supreme Court. And some of them, like this guy Murphy, who was in Boston, said, I'm not going to listen to the Supreme Court. I'm going to do it anyway. And the Supreme Court said, no, you're not. But you're right. There's no backbone in the Republican Party. Let's bring up LaMonica McIver, for God's sakes. There's a simple move, and I don't know how you voted, but there's a simple move to censure her. Because
how I voted.
I know how you voted, but I don't want to assume it. I guess I can. So you voted to censure her, obviously. She gives a forearm shiver to a federal agent. She is pushing her way through like some sort of a linebacker, and then she goes on and fake cries on CNN. And the Republicans, led by Mike Johnson, can't censure her. We've got the videotape, Eli.
I not only voted to censure, Joe, I voted to kick her off the committee as well. I mean,
of course.
Censure, to me, that's weak. You know, we should be kicking this representative off. She's on the Homeland Security Committee, Joe. And I'll tell you this, a lot of times, you know what's even more infuriating? A lot of times I'll walk into that committee because I'm on it, and she'll actually be the ranking member. She'll be sitting right next to the chairman in a place of authority because Republicans are so weak.
And by the way, she's on the Homeland Security Committee. For those watching and listening, she attacked a Homeland Security investigator, somebody who's an HSI agent, literally on the committee that can control what happens with that agency. Thankfully, she doesn't have the majority. But listen, George Santos has now admitted what he did. But the Republicans had no problem not only censuring him, but kicking him out of Congress before he was charged with anything. So, I mean, what is that? Is that just to get along with people for martinis at lunch? Why would they not circle the wagons and make sure this woman pays for we all clearly saw what she did?
I don't know, Joe. I struggle to figure out this party all the time, man. But it's one of the reasons I came up here. Like many of your listeners and viewers, I just got tired of watching it. I got tired of watching all these weak Republicans who wouldn't do anything but manage the decline of our country, who wouldn't fight for the American people. And so I was like, you know what? I may not be that great, but I can't be any worse than most of these people up here.
Yeah. No, I think you are great. It's Eli Crane, District 2 Republican, great state of Arizona, crane.house.gov. Let's talk about the Epstein estate documents and the release of them. I don't know why there's some sort of a disconnect between the people and some members of Congress, some members of the executive. Why can't we just know everything there is to know about this guy? He's dead. If he was blackmailing people, we don't know about it because he's dead. We just want to know what exactly went on with this guy and how exactly did he get away with it for so long? And shouldn't these people that came and testified in front of Congress the other day, these victims, shouldn't they get every cent he was ever worth?
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. It's one of the reasons that I co-sponsored Thomas Massey's resolution. One of the reasons I co-sponsored his bill. I think there were only 11 of us that co-sponsored his bill because I feel the same way. I've got no problem with, full transparency on this. I know the American people want to see transparency on it. Leadership and the administration chose that they wanted to go a different direction and, do an investigation and oversight. And so that's what we're going to do. But I completely agree. This thing, many of us have been talking about this for many years on, the Jeffrey Epstein deal. But I will say this, Joe, it is a little bit curious to me that none of these Democrats gave a damn about any of these victims for the last 4 years. I find that shocking. And I also find it shocking that many of the reporters up here who are, banging the drum about, the Epstein files and discharge petitions, none of them cared about it until President Trump was in the White House. And, Joe, when I think about this and, a lot of people the Democrats in particular, are trying to, implicate Trump in this whole thing. And it's just odd to me, this party and this media who tried to do everything to imprison the president, destroy his businesses, destroy his family, put him in prison for 750 years. If they had an iota of evidence on the president, don't you think they would have brought it out in those 4 years?
They would have burned down the entire Democrat Party and started a new party just to stop him from becoming the president again. 91 indictments, if they had any implication of criminality between Trump and Epstein, it would have been so out there, it would make your head spin. It would be out there so fast. Absolutely. Yeah, at the end of the day,
I agree completely, Joe.
I just want us to know who the guy was, because I don't want to hear a rumor that he was Mossad if he wasn't. I don't want to hear that he was CIA if he wasn't, FBI if he wasn't. He was just a scumbag. Tell us he was just a scumbag and let us off the hook now. There's no reason to keep it back. It's Eli Crane. I appreciate that you signing on with Thomas Massey and getting us that information. Let's finish with this. I know that Marines are always Marines. Are you always a Navy SEAL? Are you still a Navy SEAL?
No, we say former. We're not as hardcore as the Marines, Joe, but. We gotta love our Marine. We gotta love our Marine brothers, man. Those guys are awesome.
I wondered about the nomenclature. So, having said that, being a guy who's got that experience, do you know what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania? Do you know why some 22-year-old scrub with pimples on his face can get on top of a building after using a rangefinder with an AR-15-like rifle. I mean, I've got an AR-15 not far from where I sit. I can shoot 150 yards pretty accurately. I mean, that's not a very long shot. How somebody doesn't stop him before it happens. Thankfully, a sniper takes him out after he pulls a shot off. But I mean, why don't they see him? How does he get that access? Do we know? Are we ever going to know what really happened that day?
Honestly, Joe, I don't know. This is something I've continued to work on, with folks in the administration that feel the same way. I can tell you, there's a bit of stonewalling going on within the bureaucracy. One of the things that I still want to look at is his cell phone communications, his bank records, et cetera. Still haven't been given access to it, but I've been repeatedly and regularly checking up with some folks within the administration to try and get, more information.
Were there then some sort of counter sniper gaps for the president's detail? That detail wasn't the A-team anyway. We found out that I think Jill Biden had more protection than Donald Trump did. But were there enough counter snipers? Was there enough? I'm guessing not. The guy got a shot off and shot the president in the ear. What should change for the Secret Service to protect the man?
Well, one of the things that we just found out, the IG put out a report, I think 2 weeks ago, showing that the Secret Service counter sniper team, was down about 73% of where they're supposed to be manned at. 73% down of where they're supposed to be, Joe. And as I read through the report, one of the things that I found the most interesting is that they weren't willing to hire directly military guys, that were in special operations, that had gone to, various sniper schools. And, they would hire those guys, but then it would take 3 years. Their pipeline was 3 years. Joe, guess how long it took me to become a Navy SEAL sniper?
I'm guessing not 3 years, Eli. I don't know.
3 months.
Wow.
3 months, Joe. And I'll put our snipers up against any snipers out there. And that's my problem is they're down 73%, and yet they, for a no-fail mission, and then they won't hire, they won't, make any, they won't give any leeway to these guys who have, amazing training. Now, I understand, Joe, and I'm not putting this on the current, head of the Secret Service. I think he's doing a great job, but at the same time, you got to make some leeway, and you've got to, make sure that guys that have similar training can come in and help you build, that force up to the numbers that it's supposed to be at. And right now they're just relying on, tons of overtime for these guys. And as you can see, you can only get so lucky for so long.
Absolutely. It's Representative Eli Crane, District 2 Republican, great state of Arizona. Follow him everywhere on social media. Thanks for making time today. Keep up the incredible work. Thank you, Eli.
Joe, it's good to see you, man. Thank you, dude.
Good to see you. We're back after this. Stay right here.